Today we are going to talk about referees, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we are going to talk about why Alabama is trash as well as referees. But first, man, we need to talk a bit about the Oklahoma City Thunder. In particular, what is going on between Paul George and Russell Westbrook. Now, for those of you that didn't watch Oklahoma City versus Denver, it was a wildly entertaining game for the neutral. And if you were a Thunder fan, you kept looking at Jokic going, this dude is just doing us in. I mean, he's special with the way that he can see, the way that he can get to the rim. And then Mason Plumlee was able to do his hustle man thing, which, okay, lunch pail kind of guy. And we all know how we feel about lunch pail kind of guys. And yeah, Oklahoma City lost that game to Denver. But at the time, it was for the best record in the West. And now Oklahoma City is number 2 behind Denver, and we're all looking forward to Denver versus Toronto. But one of the things that has been really cool to watch is how Paul George continues to make himself a part of Oklahoma City in such a way that even Russell Westbrook has decided not only this is a good thing, but this is my Robin. In the way that they were Batman and Robin back when it's KD and Russ. And I think, we can point to how many shots that Paul George has taken. We can point to how he basically was the offense or got things going when Russ was out. But what I think is most interesting to pay attention to is how much Russ trusts Paul George to make a play in clutch time. Now, I found this stat from Royce Young, who does excellent reporting the Oklahoma City Thunder. If you follow the Thunder, you know that. You know that Royce and OKC kind of go hand in hand all the way back from the time when they were still the Oklahoma City Pelicans. But what I found interesting was that Russ and KD shot the majority of shots during clutch time, right? So when it was the Russ and KD show, Russ took 35% of the clutch time shots and KD took 31% of the clutch time shots. And we could all agree that at the time when it was going well, that seemed to work out for everybody. It was KD that decided he didn't want to do that no more. Whatever. Now, in the years since, we saw Russell Westbrook basically say, nah, it's me or nothing. I can't trust y'all to do it, so I'm going to do it myself. And that's how you get a guy who becomes basically a force of nature unto himself and averages a triple-double, and probably is going to do that again this year, even with a guy like Paul George on the court. And that's another awesome story unto itself, but this kind of feeds into it in that this season, Russ is taking 32% of the clutch time shots, and Paul George is taking 22% of the clutch time shots. Now, this is also really interesting, and I use interesting a lot because, things are interesting. Because last year, Russ Westbrook was responsible for basically half the offense during clutch time. 45% of the time, Russ was taking the shots. Russ was making it happen for the Oklahoma City Thunder as opposed to 16% from Paul George. Now, there are other factors that are into play there, not the least of which was Carmelo Anthony was supposed to be a part of this big three that never materialized, in part because Carmelo Anthony remains Carmelo Anthony. This is a dude who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, who was a year-to-year all-star who just ain't got it like he used to have it. And we're all kind of sad about that, but I wish he would have tried to make himself work at Oklahoma City, because if he made himself work and he embraced that role of coming off the bench, we could talk about how good Oklahoma City is and how good they could be. But the thing about Oklahoma City right now is that it's been a lot of Paul George. And it's not just that he's the leading scorer, it's that you did this without Russ Westbrook for a time. You continue to basically do it without Andre Roberson for a time. And you're still one of the better defensive teams in all of the NBA. And I think Chauncey Billups was onto something in the broadcast when he's like, look, if you can play good defense, you're always going to be into games, no matter what your offense is able to do. Now, do you need some more three-point shooting? Yes, absolutely. But where are you going to get it right now? I know, I would like to see you focus on the defensive side of the ball. I would like to see more Steven Adams, like to see what Andre Roberson can bring to the floor. But more than that, I'm really enjoying the partnership between Russ and PG, because PG was like, look, if I'm going to fit, I'm going to have to fit organically. We all remember the whole random thing and how random was the best way for Paul George to play. I don't necessarily think that random was such a bad term, but the whole don't draw up a play for me, I get, because most of us, when we come up playing basketball or any pickup sport at all, we all play random. We all say, you know what, I'm going to get open. Or you know what, I'm going to cut toward the basket and we'll see what happens. Not necessarily because we know offenses and we know what we like to run, but because everybody's just out here trying to do something that works. And you're somehow trying to play within the team dynamic, especially if you're playing 5-on-5 with a bunch of dudes you don't really know. And especially if you're playing 7-on-7 with a bunch of family friends that you only see at Thanksgiving. Y'all just trying to make it happen. It's like, I'm going to run a hitch. I'm going to run a go. You know what? I'm going to just try to make this guy go in a different direction than I go. And when I'm open, you hit me with the pass. And that's essentially what Paul George has been saying to Billy Donovan and the rest of the Oklahoma City Thunder. And because Billy Donovan has just been like, you know what? Fine. Let's just try to make a play where Paul George just gets to decide what he's going to do. And if it's organically there, then he'll take the shot. And the thing about having a guy like Russell Westbrook on your squad is that it's always going to be organically there, because Russ Westbrook is going to command everybody's attention. Because he's on that line between control and chaos the whole time, he can also just drive toward the basket, draw two defenders, and that guy on the outside standing on the wing usually is Paul George. And that's kind of the story about the offense, is because Russ Westbrook and Paul George are going to occupy so much attention, you need more three-point shooting because the wings are always going to be open for shots, right? So you would like to see Dennis Schroeder, when he's on the floor with those other two guys, knock down some more jumpers. You'd like to see Pat Patterson get an opportunity, Jeremy Grant continue to knock down three-pointers, but get better at it, because all of a sudden you could have a real contender on your hands, but it's December and nobody really cares about the NBA records until we get to March and you start to decide what playoff season is going to look like, because we all believe Oklahoma City is going to be in the playoffs. But because the West is so loaded and because the East is catching up in a hurry, and thanks in large part to Kawhi Leonard and what he's doing at Toronto, this is becoming a fascinating NBA season. But more to that, I'm just fascinated with the stories behind the stories. Like, I'm not necessarily here for the X's and O's of the NBA. I'm here for Joel Embiid getting mad about Jimmy Butler getting all the points and getting all the buckets and getting all the attention. I'm here to watch the Chicago Bulls implode because a bunch of professionals said, no, you're not going to run us. I don't care if we got beat by 56 points. And I'm here to watch the Oklahoma City Thunder and the soap opera that comes along with it because Russ Westbrook is your point guard. Look, it was clear the Denver Nuggets were going to beat Oklahoma City late. So when they were going into that jump ball situation where Russ Westbrook is in Jamal Murray's face and pushes him, shoves him for what seems like no real reason except that he's losing, he don't like it. I'm here for that. I wanted to see those two guys throw down. Now, it wasn't going to happen, and everybody needed to be separated. But I also was here for Russ Westbrook looking at Jokic, talking about what he would do to him if Jokic tried to step to him again. I also think it's indicative of this league. You know, we talk about how the league is soft and how nobody wants to fight each other. But I for real think if somebody rolls up on Russ, he might 1-2 him. He might give him the two-piece. I don't know. I just know that when Ron Artest did it, he didn't want no part of Ron Artest, and that's indicative of what the NBA is today. And speaking of what the NBA is today, you know players and coaches will roll up on NBA refs with a bone to pick and act like they're going to get Brody, and perhaps might get Brody with the referee. It's one of the reasons I love Joey Crawford, because he didn't have time for that. He was going to tee you up in a hurry. We also know that players and coaches will roll up on NFL referees because they're bigger than them and they got nothing to lose. And NFL referees are like everybody else's referees for the most part. They're insurance agents, they're dentists, they're attorneys, they're nonprofit CEOs. They don't really want it with a dude like JJ Watt. They don't really want it with a dude like Vontaze Burfict, who is out here with nothing to lose and all these hands to throw. We also know that folks can't wait to roll up on a college football referee because they're not great at their jobs. One, because it's a part-time gig. They got real jobs. They got real families. They don't like to be on social media because they can never do anything correct. And yeah, when they miss a call that's glaring, we're all going to talk about it. But the one referee that you're not rolling up on is a wrestling referee. And I don't mean pro wrestling. I don't mean WWE, and you know I'm a fan. I'm talking about real wrestling. I'm talking about the men on the mat next to these grown men as children who are going, yo, with the hand in there. Look at the pin. Look. Also looking at you going, I need to see some movement. If I don't see some movement, I'm going to call stalling. That's the referee for which nobody is going to roll up on that dude. So I was watching Penn State and Arizona State on ESPN because wrestling on the cable television, I am here for it. And I'm watching Penn State beat Arizona State so badly that they're getting bonus points. But I'm also looking at Cael Sanderson and how he's interacting with the referee. And most people know who Cael Sanderson is. You know he's one of the best wrestlers of all time and becoming one of the best collegiate coaches of all time. But if Cael Sanderson ain't going to go up there and get Brody against you, chances are nobody in the entire arena is going to go up there and get Brody with you, because wrestling referees command a different level of respect. Look, we all know that when you go into a bar, you want to bring wrestlers with you because they don't care. I'm a wrestler. It's captain of the Memorial High School team. I love wrestling. But my dudes, if we rolled up on you, somebody was going to throw hands. Not saying we would win the fight. I'm saying we're always down to fight. But the one dude that no wrestler was going to mess with was a wrestling referee. And everybody knows that wrestlers are the hardest individuals on earth, and they have been fighting since birth. You don't want it with a wrestler because there's no such thing as enough blood. There is no such thing as the fight is over. They are in it to destroy you, literally, not figuratively, literally want to take you apart. And wrestling referees are former collegiate wrestlers. They're guys that were raised in the sport. They are guys that live and breathe the sport year in and year out. I contend that nobody would mess with a wrestling referee. And if you think different, let me know in the comments below. But I bring all that up to say, there's no way that the Orange Bowl referees are going to be able to win. Now, I did a little of that research, a little bit of that journalism stuff, and I found out there's ACC referees that are going to be for the Orange Bowl, and SEC referees are going to be for the Cotton Bowl. So you're going to have Bama and Oklahoma with an ACC crew, and you're going to have Notre Dame and Clemson with an SEC crew, and that feels about right. But in looking up the guys who are going to referee these games, and I'm looking at their occupations, and I'm going, man, yeah, y'all ain't in it for people to yell at y'all, because part-time, you got a full-time job, you got to be somewhere else Monday through Friday, and then you fly out to games to be called every name in the book by fans who are sure you are not on their side. And I'm one of them. I'm the first to say the Big 12 referees ain't very good at their jobs, but I also know it's their part-time gig. And if college football and the NFL would ever get it up to pay these guys full-time, probably have better officials, probably would have better officiating, and probably would shut people up like me. No, I'm not. It's the internet. Y'all gonna yell because that's what we do. Speaking of yelling, and that's what we do, when news came to light that former Maryland head coach DJ Durkin was observing the Alabama Crimson Tide, I blew a gasket, like I thought many people would and have. Now, Nick Saban tried to get in front of this once it came to light that DJ Durkin was observing practices to say, DJ Durkin is just watching some tape with us, and he's doing some professional development with us, just like other coaches have done. Well, you know, man, look, we all know that DJ Durkin was out there trying to interview for the annual Nick Saban coaching internship, because it's kind of what you do, Saban. You bring in Lane Kiffin, you bring in Steve Sarkisian, you bring in Mike Loxley, you bring in Butch Jones, you bring in Chip Kelly, and most of the time, you put that guy on your staff in some capacity or another. So the fact that you are bringing a guy on your premises that for all intents and purposes was in charge of a football program for which a player died from exhaustion, yeah, man, I don't want that guy anywhere near my program. I don't want that guy anywhere near my players. I don't want him anywhere near a college football team because you've lost all your privileges. Like, football is a violent sport and injuries happen. But what happened to Jordan McNair at Maryland is unconscionable, especially in 2018. So if you're the head man in charge, you have to live with that for the rest of your life. I don't think that just mere months after that dude was fired, rehired, and then fired again after 2 separate investigations, you would have him anywhere near your program, especially if you're Alabama, especially in the lead up to the biggest game of the season for you and just ahead of early signing day. But if you're Nick Saban, you don't really care, and you don't really have anybody that you have to answer to because you win championships and you continue to be at the forefront of college football. But even so, why even take the risk and bring a guy like that around your program? I don't get it. It's why I think Bama's trash. Look, great football, great offense, great defense, great special teams. Absolutely terrible when you're talking about bringing in a guy like DJ Durkin. But if that's how you want to roll with your program, if that is the message that you want to send to friends and families of recruits, you go right ahead. Because that is how you open the door for other college football programs who operate on a different level of integrity and a different level of character to come sliding right through those recruiting rankings. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.